Yeah, so for the record, yeah, so for the recording, the topic is Blackbeard versus Kaido. I think Blackbeard wins. Zkiller thinks Kaido wins.
Please don't premise trap me,
Okay.
Joe. Please don't premise
So
trap me.
yeah, just it's just
I'm
it's like
not gonna debate you on that premise, but please don't trap me. I continue.
it's just a simple argument. So basically, yeah, Oda just states that Blackbeard's strong, so therefore he beats your character. Any contention?
Cold. That's a cold argument. So I'm guessing like the part that's highlighted is like the part that I need to care about.
Yes, King.
Absolute power control at the same time. You'll be the strongest. You contextualize what strongest means in context.
Yeah, being the best combatant.
All right.
Yeah, I just think the whole context of Marineford, like, for example, him fighting Whitebeard and gaining his power in a specific battle context. So I think it then will be inferred from that if it makes a statement saying that when he obtains his new fruit for more power and combatively, I think that just ties into combative strength.
So
So
basically, you're trying to make a correlation with the condition of the battle in which allowed him to get this power and the statement that calls him the strongest.
basically, yeah.
Okay, but what if the statement is just supposed to be contextualized to be that he has the strongest fruit powers?
Um, that can be an impossible interpretation, but I don't think it's more likely or like equal to be exact.
It's not equal to the exact. Okay, can you explain how it's not equal?
Um, yeah. So I believe that I don't think you presented something that would show that to be equal for that. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I mean, I think the obvious connection is just going to be correlating the statement with the previous words, which is just talking about his fruit. So if the context is that it's talking about his fruit, it's hyping up his fruit right before it talks about him being the strongest, then I think it's just talking about his fruits being the strongest. I don't see a problem with that.
No. I think what the statement, or at least what the author himself is trying to like contextualize or highlight, is that I could agree that obviously, it's highlighting the fruits, but I think we agree with the reasoning that is doing this, but I think we disagree on the conclusion. So I think the conclusion is going to be, for example, where it highlights the fruit, like where it's talking about his darkness and nullifies abilities in the earthquake with his offensive power. I think it's best to just contextualize that even with these specific given fruits or abilities, it's now making him the strongest. I think if it's trying to highlight that he has the strongest abilities, which interpretation, I think Oda will make that abundantly clear. But I think the way he puts it linguistically, I think
Well,
that just shows that it's going to be this thing making him the
if
strongest, not
somebody
his.
has the strongest abilities, in order to highlight they're the strongest, obviously within that category, while utilizing those abilities, then you would say he is the strongest.
Repeat
Not
that.
necessarily call his abilities the strongest, because what I'm proposing is not necessarily that Blackbeard's abilities are the strongest. It's more so that amongst double fruit users, he has the strongest abilities. So that's a little different, because now I'm saying that calling him the strongest would still be grammatically accurate, and there's no problem with that, like, contextually or like linguistically, because yes, having the strongest double fruit abilities would make him strongest double fruit user. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that I don't think Oda himself is like approaching that situation with your interpretation. Because you're trying to say that, it could be the case that, for
Just to
example,
be clear, just to clarify,
what?
you justified you not thinking Oda contextualizing it to mean this via using some sort of linguistic argument. If you're dropping that, or you're like moving on from
Oh,
that, or you
I'm not
don't
dropping.
think that was properly addressed, then we can like
Yeah, I'm just responding
just
to you
like
said.
not
So,
talking about.
were you basically saying that it can be interpretation or something that he can be like the strongest Delphi user or some shit? Or
Yeah,
some
and
shit.
you said that if that's the case, if his abilities are simply the strongest, then Oda would just call his ability like strongest abilities. And I'm saying, well, no, he's the strongest user. So that's like more personal to
Oh,
Blackbeard than like just
strongest.
the abilities he's using. Amongst the fruit abilities, he's the strongest user. He has the strongest fruits.
I think if you would say, for example, that he's the strongest Delphi user, I think wouldn't that really be conceding that he's a stronger than Kaido? Kaido's also a free user as well.
Well, it depends on what standard we're applying to say what makes him stronger. If we're applying the standard that the quantity of fruits and the quality of fruits he has is what makes him stronger, then no, he doesn't have to be Kaido 1v1 in order for that title to be correct.
Okay. Okay. So I think it would, because I think specifically within the specific statement, if we're saying, or at least if we're trying to at least go with your interpretation, that
Mhm.
or possibly the fucking Blackbeard is the strongest free user. I think it's making a categorization, right? So it's saying by virtue of this category, he's the strongest within this category. So I think if we have the combination of these fruits, which make him the strongest in this category, I think it's more kind of logical and reasonable to say that he would be stronger than Kaido, because it's talk about combative strength. So he would just have the sufficient enough
Wait,
tools to
wait.
beat Kaido in the fight.
Sorry. Run me through that. Run me through
So
that.
what?
Run me through that, please. One more time.
Yeah, so I'm saying if Oda, or at least if we're going with your interpretation that,
Pause.
oh, it's a categorization thing, right? Saying that he's the strongest fruit user. I'm
Yeah.
saying that given the context, I think this would still tie
What do you
back to
mean by
say,
categorization? Clarify.
yeah, what I mean by categorization is a specific category to put in a specific thing or labeling in. And it's
Uh,
labeling it, or
what
at least what
do
you
you mean
said
by?
or
I
implied.
don't think it's necessarily labeled or categorized that way in the statement. I just think that's how it's contextualized.
Well, oh, okay. I think the problem
Yeah.
is that you brought up a different interpretation that he could just be the strongest deal for users. I think deal for users are put in the category, right? Or no?
Devil fruit users are put in what category?
Like if we're talking about in terms of like fruit users, you don't think that's a category?
Yeah. No, I agree that's the category of combatants. I just don't think that's like specifically outlined. It's just
Um,
contextualization. But what about it?
uh, okay. I think by virtue of you having this interpretation, I think it would have to, or I think we have reasonable to say this in the first place. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
His ability to say what?
Yeah, that specifically it would be under the specific the thing of fucking Dell for user. Or I
Well,
mean
obviously
fucking Kaido
obviously
being
is the
under that
strongest
Kaido
under this
being under
standard. I'm just saying this standard is not specifically outlined. So you say,
that.
what's the problem with that?
I could agree that Delph, like when it's talking about specifically like Delph for users, I could agree that's not outlined directly in the statement. But I'm saying
Yeah.
we can also make a some sort of like argument that off the statement is going to have to involve that, given the interpretation that you provided. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think by
fine.
virtue of that it would have to,
Yeah,
right?
but where do you go from that?
Yeah, so I don't okay, I'll just repeat one more time. So basically what I'm saying is that if it's the case that if we're going to interpretation that he's the strongest Delphi user, I'm
Hmm.
saying that Kaido is under that classification of a fruit user. And
Hmm.
I think the statement once again just implies combative strength. So by virtue of that, Blackbeard would just be stronger than your opponent or your character.
So I already addressed why Kaido being under that like fucking statement and that applying to him doesn't mean anything for how they would fight in a 1v1. And you could explain why you think he holds combative strength holds any relevance to determine what is more likely.
Just to be clear, what was your reasoning?
I basically said if the standard is the like quantity and quality of Delphi not necessarily your in personal combative ability, then it doesn't matter if he has more Delphins or he's considered stronger than Kaido. If we know that what he's stronger in doesn't relate to combative ability. And you could talk
Um,
about why you think it would relate to combative ability outside of just like your interpretation.
Yeah, I think the significant thing that Oda's trying to portray to us is going to be his fruits, use ice fruits, or the thing that makes him as strong as the character he is. So I think if we already have a statement or something that's going to contextualize within the statement, or just trying to emphasize a fruit usage on his part, I think if he's highlighting these specific abilities for his combat strength, because obviously we know when Blackbeard fights, he's going to be using those two fruits, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's going to be by virtue of that, I think the only reasonable thing we can say is that this is going to be his ultimate combative strength, and I think that's what Oda is trying to portray to be his
I don't
strongest.
know. I don't know, Cho, because
So what?
like that's a neat interpretation. I could just say I disagree because you didn't actually give some like extra reasoning outside of you just thinking Oda's gonna do this. But I'll attack it. I think that
Yeah.
if Oda wanted to do this thing, right? If Oda wanted to like make this more broader statement, just going over the things that makes Blackbeard strong, so that it doesn't just correlate to Delphids, why wouldn't he mention any other aspects about Blackbeard that isn't Delphids? If he wanted to hammer that point down, why wouldn't he say something like his body, which is commented on several times, his physical strength which almost broke Ace's neck, maybe his durability or endurance, which we obviously know is very high. Why does he only talk about his Delphids?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna respond to this. So um, okay. On a real note, I think those things are included, but I believe that if you have something that's most significant or makes you as strong as a character, for example, like we know Luffy, what makes him so strong as a character is fucking hockey and his fruit, or something like a kind of it makes him strong because of his magma, right? So I think if Oda specifically highlighting these things, these are going to be things that matters the most. These are the most significant, like specific categories. So I think
But
that's what.
this this
But I think other
interpretation only
categories.
works under the
Wait, Zeke,
presupposition
wait,
or you're
wait,
like
wait, Zeke.
assuming some sort of intent from Oda.
Yeah, I want to get done. So I
Okay.
think other categories can be included. But I just think within that statement, Oda is trying to highlight the most significant categories that makes him the strongest, basically.
So external to the interpretation, is there actual reason you think this is Oda's intent? Because you said
Uh,
obviously if Oda's want to highlight them as combatant, they're going to highlight the most significant aspects about which I don't necessarily disagree with. But I just don't think that that's neither supports or denies your argument. So where do you get this intent from?
yeah. So okay, I'm getting this intent from the way Oda makes the statement or the way the translation is. So I think if you want to say that it would win something else, I think Oda could have portrayed it better or at least put it in a better way for us to understand it critically, right? So if he wanted to emphasize that, Blackbeard just has the strongest fruits, I think he would have implied it in some sort of specific way that he just has the strongest fruits, but he just makes a statement saying that he's the strongest.
What's the
And
thing?
I think that's where we can't really be determined that, the statement or Oda is trying to directly imply this
What's
thing
the thing?
else. Yeah, go ahead.
So as I said, like his foods don't individually have to be the strongest in order for him to be the strongest ability user or like the strongest Belfort user. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think that the intent is going to be drawn from what I said earlier. Is that Oda only mentions Delphi. According to me, all I see is like Delphi. The only relevant factor that I see introduced in the statement is Delphi. So I'm just going to go off of that standard. That's what's introduced within this statement. If you want to go and bring up another like thing that's possible or another interpretation, that's fine. But what I'm asking right now is for like likelihood, like a reason to actually believe your interpretation over mine.
Well, I got a question.
Okay.
So do you know about the statement about Wyber being the world's strongest pirate because of his fruit? Are you aware of that?
Whitebeard, world's strongest pirate. I don't know if it's ever
I
stated he's
mean,
the
world's
world's
strongest
strongest
man.
pirate
World's strongest
because
man. I mean, my fault. I meant world's
yeah,
strongest
I
man.
don't know if it is ever stated he's the world's strongest man come with his fruit, but if it is stated, what are you trying to go with it?
Yeah. If you just okay. So basically, what I'm trying to get is that Oda specifically, which we can say to our knowledge of that statement, that Oda has been trying to imply that characters can have such like powerful fruits that they can't be the strongest. We have an example of this within Wiper himself because of that statement.
But do
So
you think he's the world's strongest man combatively? Because based off of what you're telling me, it seems like he's just the world's strongest man because he can destroy the world or because he has such a high destructive capacity fruit.
I don't think it would be because he can destroy the world. I think that's kind of ridiculous to say.
Well,
Because
think about it like this: if I can nuke several countries with like some sort of fucking ability, I can just like crash out and destroy the world. But like I can't beat Prime Mike Tyson in a battle. Why is this like some sort of contradiction for me to be in the strongest?
Because I think that if people know that you have an intent to not do X thing, which I think is going to be to destroy like all specific like areas around like within the world, then I don't think that statement will be used to imply that thing. But I think the statement will be like used to imply your actual junior strength, not just like fucking destroying everything and just like doing like a self destruction.
I agree. Intent would matter if they're trying to determine how much of a threat Whitebeard is to the Marines. But if they're just saying in a vacuum he's this strong, without necessarily like taking into account like his intentions, his like character, his morals, I don't see a problem. I don't see a contradiction.
Yeah, but I think we have
Also,
to
like you're kind of presupposing that he needs to use the Delphi to the highest, utmost extent in order for him to be considered a threat. Like I think simply being capable of like shifting tectonic plates and causing sea quakes on the other side of the One Piece world, which is fucking massive. I think that enough. It's like already enough to like be considered like a huge threat.
Okay. Yeah, but I think the problem is that there's got to be a specific like energy output that he has to do this X thing. So if Wyber intuitively wants to, for example, let's say he wants to just fucking shift the fucking oceans and make that shit rise crazy like hot, then he's gonna output enough force to do that to be that specific amount of threat because we know water can kill people and make them drown.
I agree.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think if we look at the character of what Wyber done, I don't think Wyber has done anything that makes it like that for the interpretation. That it can be possibly due to the damage he can pose, but I think it's more realistic to say that it's because of the actual combative thing you have because we see him utilize this specific thing against people like a Kaido, and he doesn't create these like crazy destruction unless it's necessary. And I think
oh no, because
my fault.
so basically, argument is like because he's only using this within like, or he's only using this ability within combative instances, that would like mean that the statement itself is inherently combative. Is that the argument?
Repeat that.
Is the argument because he's using this ability in combative instances that means the statement is inherently combative?
Not quite.
Okay, so can you just give me what your actual argument is? Because I don't understand it.
Okay, so for you respond with the whole like the people about the risk factors, right? The tectonic plates. I think you have to take into account of Wyber's actual character. So I think that kind of co-lines with the statements, right? So I think if we have a character, because I think if we go off something in character, we determine what's consistent of that character performing within the series itself. So I think if you have,
you're saying this like an in-character statement. I'm asking why. You're saying this like I'm asking why this statement is like taking into account Whitebeard's character. Like I already explained how the statement can be true, everything could be fine, and it's like just not consider the fact that Whitebeard would never do this or never use this level of strength.
Yeah, because I think particularly when Oda makes statements, I think it's kind of.
Also, we kind of do see Whitebeard just shift tectonic plates because he was mad, but yeah, continue.
Okay, yeah, but I'll say if it's reasonable. Okay. So I think
I don't know if that's reasonable. He just kind of got mad and did it.
My fault. Oh, you can show me that. But I think when Oda does,
yeah, do you remember when he was talking to Roger?
No, but
If you think Roger asked him for a request on like his hands and knees and like Whitebeard getting so mad instead of just saying no, he just like fucking destroys like
you can show me that.
every
But
single fucking sea creature in like a 20-mile radius. And if you think that's reasonable, then sure. But I'll just say that your standard of reasonability is like completely different than what you were trying to propose earlier.
yeah, you can send me that. But I think Oda would, because for particularly when he makes a statement saying that this character is the strongest because of a specific factor, and I thought it was gonna be something that goes on with the story. I think we would have to logically go in the story and see what he does consistently to say what's gonna be the reasoning or logical basis as to why he's the strongest. And I think if we come off some logical
Why?
basis, I think it's going to have a connection to the statement by virtue of that.
Wait, but this is the
Because
thing. You're already kind of presupposing.
it's making a
Wait,
mention. Yeah,
okay.
wait, 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 wait,
Because
wait, wait,
like
wait,
I don't want
wait,
you to
wait,
like
wait,
run so many things through me
wait.
that like I can't track.
My fault, because it's making a statement based upon what's in the story, and that's going to be because of the
Pause.
suit.
That
So
sounds
I think,
weird.
yeah, so I think that's going to have some sort of connection.
Okay. So
My fault.
the only thing that I picked up from where you said, because I'm not gonna lie, I was just getting jumped. I'm playing Roblox right now, so I was getting jumped, so I wasn't paying the most attention. But the only thing that I really was like tracking from what you said ever since I brought up that Whitebeard was, can you show that? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So
Do you want me to repeat what I
you said
said?
some shit like, let me try to remember. I could probably remember some more shit you said, but you said, can you show that? And then you started talking about Oda wanting to show the reason for why this character is considered the strongest within the story, right?
I
Right.
guess.
You basically said like, oh, if Oda's saying this guy's a strong, he's gonna want to showcase that throughout the story and like the reason, right?
Can I just repeat what I said so we can have like a good understanding? Oh,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll just summarize it. So
Oh,
basically, what
fuck
I'm saying
all
is
of you niggas. None of you guys got the scan for me.
that. So,
You
yeah.
guys all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
None of
So
you guys
basically,
decided to get it.
what I'm saying is that I believe that when Oda does make some sort of mention of the manga itself, when he talks about specific devil fruit attribute, I believe that's going to have sort of correspondence with the anime because he's talking about this particular thing that we
Anime?
consistently no manga, my fault,
Okay.
because we see this we see this particular thing consistently utilized within the manga itself, in which I'm
Okay.
saying I think we would have to go off what's in character because Oda's making mint on the fruit, which is utilized by that character and his decisions what that person makes intuitively. So I
So
think
because the character has the devil fruit, and obviously how he uses it would be dependent on how like his intuition acts and like what his morals tells him to do. Oda would necessarily make it so that the statement is incorporating this as a necessary factor.
yes.
I mean, that's like a neat interpretation, but I could just say he doesn't have to do that. I could just say, oh, Oda's not taking his character in consideration. He's not trying to say, oh, within this like specific context, within character, he's the strongest. He could just say, oh, he has the potential for this, and this potential is what makes him the strongest. So
Okay,
I
I'm gonna
don't see a
respond.
problem with
So,
that. If you want to see like the scan that I was talking about, I'll probably set it in a second. If you want to keep on talking, you go ahead and do that.
okay, so I think the problem is just
Hey,
that
bro, yo, chill out. Stop talking, bro. I
I
want to get
think
the scan first, please.
yeah, yeah, so I think if he didn't do that, I think that would cause confusion because I think that will lead to
My
specifically
bad, bro. Can I get the scan first before we
oh,
start like talking?
yeah, go ahead. That's cool.
I know I said you could continue talking, but I realized actually though I want to get this scan first before you continue.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, look at Dexter's lab, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fine. I think this ties back to my initial point.
You have a
Uh,
3 million bounty, bro. So
yeah,
you said so you basically said like so this is obviously a response, assuming that you win the point that this statement is relying upon Whitebeard's personality in character. This is like just saying, okay, even if that's the case, I don't think Whitebeard in character is somebody who would hesitate to use a Delver if he wants to.
yeah, I don't. Okay, I don't really think this addresses what I said. I can explain why people make some.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just believe that I believe that if we're talking about specifically what character Oda specifically is like talking about contextually, I
Mm-hmm.
think this wouldn't really be relevant because his character, his intuition could have just changed over time. And I think if you would use it for a response, I think they'll presuppose that his intuition has not changed at all.
But
So
this
I don't.
thing, have you ever seen him like within any like relevant arc besides Marineford? Has he ever been like? Have you ever had a chapter to like delve into his personality? Like I agree, it could have changed, but like now I'm asking you what his personality actually is because we ever see him act in a certain way before Marineford?
Um, I mean, okay, if we see in the skin itself that Prime Beard is like just basically finna cause tsunamis, this can have a potentiality to like potentially hurt his crewmates, the people that he loves. But I think when we see
I
White
think he has
Marineford,
confidence that his crewmates are good without. I don't think he's fearing for his crewmates' life.
okay, that's fine. But I'm saying
Yeah.
the potentiality, right? He could be confident that his crew members can like just survive this thing. But I'm saying we have to take into account of the possibilities, right? That's what I'm
hmm
saying. Like if we're using a comparison between like Whitebeard, I think
hmm
Whitebeard is way more strict upon using this specific amount of quakes because I think he's more like he's fucking what's the word for it? Fuck. I think he's I think he's more to not try to risk anything if that makes sense. So I think the intuition will still change to a specific extent.
So the intuition will change because he's not trying to risk getting his crewmates hurt.
Just basically in comparison, Wyber does something more. Bro, what's the word for it, bro? He does something
Dangerous.
more risky. He does something more risky, and I believe that Wyber doesn't. And even Wyber does something risky. He gives his crew a heads up, which
But
he
this is
does.
the thing.
Like, go ahead.
Oh, as for like the heads up thing, that's cool because I think that this will like give a person a heads up for when you're about to like tilt the fucking island within a combative sense. That's obviously important so you don't like, make them lose their footing and get stabbed in the neck. But if he's just doing this like casually, I don't think he would need to warn them because he knows that they're not in like any combative setting. He doesn't need to run it through his entire crewmate before he does it. His entire crew before he does it. But as for like the entire thing about he doesn't show like he doesn't act like this. He only acts in a specific way. The point is like he only acts in this way when he's fighting. But I'm talking about when he's just casual, and we don't really get to see when he's casual. We don't really get to get that characterization. So where are you getting from that he doesn't act this way anymore?
I'm not making a definitive claim. I'm saying that it could be possible that he can change because
Okay,
you're
if it's
trying to use this
possible,
in some sort of
but
counter argument.
if it's possible, then this entire interpretation that Whitebeard is like not going to use it. He's not a threat. This is not a reason to consider him like the strongest man. Is also just possibly incorrect. And then my interpretation that he is the strongest man because he can just fucking use this casually if he wanted to. Then that's also possible. So
Yeah,
if
but
my
I think
interpretation is possible, can you explain how yours is likely?
Yeah, but I think when you try to use this scan, I think you took the affirmative, and I think you're kind of presupposing that his
Took the
tuition.
affirmative on what?
And I think,
I
wait,
think I
wait, wait,
think I think we already agreed on what I took the affirmative on.
wait. And I think I kind of already demonstrated some sort of evidence or like rational reasoning as
Think
to
the
why I believe this
what,
thing.
bro?
But we can move on to this point because I want to respond to the point.
What
By
do
the
you
way,
think I took the affirmative on?
yeah, when you brought up this scan to argue for something, I
Yeah,
think
affirmative of what? What specifically?
about his intuition.
Uh, I took the affirmative that Wypert has acted in this way.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think I,
I
I
took the
think when you
affirmative
brought
on
up this
that, and
scan,
I proved that. I don't think that was necessarily contentious. What you're asking is because after I took the affirmative on that, and after I proved that, you're like, okay, cool, that can be true. So you already fulfilled your burden. But now I'm gonna say, this is possibly like different. This could have
that's
changed.
fine.
Wiper could have gained experience and like no longer acts this way, which is fine. But then you actually just have no reason to consider your interpretation likely
Yeah, I think
because
I did.
you're using a
Can
context because using Whitebeard within a context that doesn't necessarily apply to like the thing that I'm using.
Yeah, okay. I think I responded. Can we go back to the other point because I never got to
Yeah,
respond? Yeah, so I think you said something about like why would Oda have to basically follow like the end character thing or something like that? I'm gonna respond to that.
I'm just saying like Oda doesn't need to necessarily say that this is like a something in character that Whitebeard would do. He can just say in a vacuum, this is true. He has the potential for this.
Okay, I'll respond. So
And also,
I
it
don't.
depends on like whether or not Oda says this depends on like Oda's intention with the statement. If Oda's trying to like highlight how much Whitebeard holds himself back, then obviously he would talk about his potential strength and him not holding himself back. But if Oda wants to talk about how much Whitebeard, how much power he uses typically within fights, then obviously he would obviously take that into character. Something like
I just want to respond to what you said. So
in character.
I think for the point,
Did you hear what I just said, or do I need to repeat it after you're done responding?
uh, I think that was on the other point we just moved on from, but I just want to respond to something
Okay.
else because I never got to respond to it.
Do you
So
not want to respond? Okay, go ahead, bro.
yeah, I think okay.
My bad.
I can, but after this point, so
Sorry.
I think because I've been waiting on something for it. So I think for
Yeah.
the point, I think if Oda doesn't do, it, I think it kind of confuses the reader, and I think it kind of gives like a misleading understanding of the story. So I think if Oda is going to use a statement, I think it's in his best interest to go off character because that can give us some sort of idea on what Oda is specifically trying to make a statement about, or specifically what's the experience of this particular statement taken off of. And I think that experience can be based upon what we see what Wyber did Marine for because he's utilizing his fruit in so many specific ways that we can interpret how he normalizes behavior within the fruit. So I think if Oda does not do this, if he does not go off in character, then it kind of confuses the reader because we don't know specifically in what state Viper's the strongest. For example, being sad, angry, going out. We don't, or just holding back. We don't know. So I think
What's the thing? Yeah, this is the thing, right? Obviously, I don't think that this idea that if your statement or if your interpretation isn't true, then we can never know the state the Whitebeard would have to be in order to be considered the strongest. Obviously, it would just be his full power. But if you're saying like, oh, it's going to confuse the readers because the readers aren't going to like conflate like potential with like typical power, then like I was going to say that must be a sped reader because I don't conflate that. That's not a conflation that I make after I read that that fucking statement, and that's definitely a connection that I can make like normally by just reading the story normally. So I don't know if like in our discussion we need to consider the interpretations of people that are less intellectually capable as me and you. And I don't think Oda would necessarily even pander to somebody that stupid that can't even make that like realization that Whitebeard isn't always the strongest, even when he's fucking sleeping and taking a shit.
Okay. But I think the point was that I think Oda, as the reader, as the writer himself, I think he would try to make it to his best ability for everyone to be able to comprehend the facts, right? Because I don't think Oda himself will want something, even if he half fucking ass does it. I don't think he would want them to try to like possibly interpret it differently or something else that he just wants to spew facts on. And
I agree, but to what degree, Cho?
wait, Zkiller, okay. And I think specifically within that scan, I think it's going to be to a high degree because we know someone like Robbie is very talked about a lot. So I think Oda would try to do his job best to try to contextualize the best of his ability to the most truthful fact of Viber himself and his character. I think it's.
But that's the thing, Cho. To what degree is Oda gonna try to pander to these people that are just stupid? Like Oda can't just spell out every single thing in the story. It's also the intention of a writer to have like the interpretations of the story broadened, so people can actually have discussions, and, like have like find it interesting. If the author just spelled everything out for you, it wouldn't be that interesting. If you just like made your own interpretation. So that's also another reason why Oda wouldn't want to just spell it out what he's saying. And also, I'm just gonna ask you, how much is Oda gonna pander to these people?
Yeah.
So I agree. Like Oda wants to make it easy for his readers to somewhat understand because they're teenagers. That's his typical audience. But I don't think he's gonna do this to no avail if he knows that it's fucking like the level of stupidity that he's pandering to is just like so stupid. There's no point even talking about it.
Yeah, so obviously, I could agree that obviously it doesn't have to spoon feed us on every single thing, but I'm saying specifically for this, I think this specific statement, like for example, like if we were to bring some like Shinji versus Kaido or like characters versus characters, I think obviously I think Oda could leave them ambiguous because obviously it leaves some more discussions about whose power dynamic is better, right? But I think when it concerns something specifically very important to the story, as of his Devil Fruit, I think it would be in Oda's best interest because obviously Oda wants to convey to us what these specific fruits are, how they function, and what's the specific power limit, right? So I think it would be his interest, and I
I
think
mean,
it would.
I agree. This is like I agree that okay.
Wait, I think it would be to extent to Oda's best ability to convey this because of that specific information. And obviously, if we don't
understand that's where we disagree.
We won't know how his fruit is effectively.
So these are things that you said for why you think Oda would like dumb it down for like the dumbest person he could think of, right? You said basically he said the best of his ability. He's gonna simplify it to the best of his ability. Obviously, if he's trying to like simplify it for people, he's gonna think of like the dumbest person he can think of, and then he's gonna dumb it down to that level, right?
No, I'm not saying.
Oh, okay, my bad. That's not what you said. Okay, let me just respond to what you said. Okay, my bad. That's cool. I'm just gonna take that back. I misinterpreted what you were trying to say. My bad. But like, hear me out, right? Okay, I agree. This is a significant thing in the story. I agree that this is something that Oda's gonna want to somewhat clarify or make it somewhat clear so people don't like misinterpret it that much. But I don't think Oda's going to do this to the extent where he has to literally clarify the state that Whitebeard has to be in order to be considered the strongest. I don't think Oda ever does that with any character. I don't think he like goes that in depth when he calls somebody strongest. Oda actually typically likes to keep things ambiguous. This is why he refuses to answer power scaling questions when people ask him that in the SBS. He consistently fucking ducks that shit. So I don't know why. Yeah, so I don't know why this means that Oda like wants to clarify this. Oda having this intention means that he's going to do this to the level that any other interpretation would be like incorrect. That it's always going to be contextualized by what we see Whitebeard do within Marineford. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the problem is obviously I think every specific like tiny detail. I don't think Oda is going to try to convey every single detail of ability. But I'm saying for the most like significant parts, I think he would. And for the condition,
yeah, I don't. That's where he's disagreed. I don't think he actually gave a reason.
And for the condition, for example, if Barber's like on his deathbed, I don't think the statement will obviously be pertaining to that specific one because I think we just have blatant like things that kind of go against that if you want to say interpretation. So
But
I
that's the
think
thing,
we
Cho.
go wait, chill. I think we go off the more reasonable things, the more best accurate things, and think more logically to see which one be applicable in a conversation.
That's the
And I
thing,
think
Cho.
I think for the whole like point about the
Okay.
fuck what's it called, like the extent thing, I
Mhm.
just think it makes no sense and just dishonest for like Oda to like not try to do it to the best of the ability, considering like if we're talking about devil fruits, right, Zkiller, and especially how Whitebeard functions as fruit, about why we pertain to be the strongest in this fruit. I just think it makes more logical sense. I think I already gave my reasoning. So
I
if you
mean, I
want me
already said, bro. I already explained why Oda wouldn't necessarily want to do this to the best of his ability, because when you make something abundantly clear within a narrative, kind of takes the fun away from interpreting it differently, right? So we wouldn't even be having this discussion if Oda made it clear what he was saying. But if Oda didn't make it clear what he was saying, we could have this discussion, we could talk, we could be more invested in the series. So that's another reason why Oda necessarily wouldn't want to do what you're saying he wants to do. And also, like, just to address the previous thing you said, like, you're just going in circles saying, "Oh yeah, Oda's gonna want to do this to the best of his ability." Oh yeah, this is significant enough for Oda like dumb it down to the level of what you're talking about. But I feel like from what you just said, you just proved that's not necessary because you just gave an interpretation. You just made some sort of induction where you said, "Oh, we can obviously know that this isn't the state that Oda's referring to because of X, Y, Z because he loses the X, Y, Z character." So obviously, readers have the potential, the capability to read and make interpretations for themselves. They don't need the author to dumb it down for them in order for that to be the case. Maybe some people do, but I already said like I don't think Oda needs to pander to those people. So I think we can just move on. I don't think you brought
Yeah,
any relevant points.
I want to respond to the last point that we conclude. So I think for the
All right.
whole like his condition, I think if we look at a character, for example, if he's like missing a body part or like his body's severely injured, I think it's gonna be just empirically just like blatantly just there that his character's not his best ability. So I think we can make more rationale and more logical reasons as to why that would be the case. I
Can you
think
repeat yourself?
with
I didn't
you.
hear what
But
you just said.
hold up, wait, stop with you. But I think particularly
I didn't hear
within
you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
basically, what I'm saying is that if you have a character, for example, like Blackbeard in Marineford, when
Mhm.
he's missed half his head, right, and his body's like hurt to a significant degree, I think obviously it's going to be like empirically just there, right, abundantly clear that this character's not his disability. And I'm saying that particularly for the statement, I think that statement is way more ambiguous than the one you're trying to use. So I think that's a possible opinion. And
Uh,
I think for the other point, I think we kind of went circle. I think we can just conclude.
okay, so I don't think you understand what I was trying to say when I was talking about Whitebeard being weakened in Marineford and you making that like analysis. The point isn't to say, oh, Whitebeard is weakened. That's obvious. The point is to say Whitebeard isn't the strongest while he's weakened. Because Oda didn't specify in what state Whitebeard is necessarily the strongest or what aspect Whitebeard is necessarily the strongest, but you can still make that interpretation by like viewing things within the series and making that connection as he did when you like viewed Whitebeard and his performance in Marineford before he died and say, okay, he's obviously not the strongest because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
All right, and what else did you say?
Um. What else I say?
I'm sorry,
Fuck.
I'm just not tracking tonight. I don't know something.
Did I say anything else besides that point?
I really just don't know what's up with me.
I,
I'm just not tracking.
I don't think I did. I don't think I did, to be honest.
All right,
But
then we can just move on. My bad. I
yeah,
can't. I'm asking you to repeat a lot because
it's good.
I'm
Just to
playing
be clear,
Roblox
did
and
you
shit.
say like any other external point that I didn't respond to? Because remember I said I was gonna like talk on this point, then go back to the point. I think I kind of
Oh,
like did.
Oda wanting to keep things ambiguous within his story. Did you respond to that?
Yeah, I'm talking about the other point that you made.
Uh, can't remember a point that you didn't. Maybe you could ask somebody in the audience. I can't remember a point that you made that you didn't
Mm,
respond to that big.
it would be kind of whack up at the point just want to continue. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, if
Yeah,
it wasn't contended, you can just move on because like I'm obviously
yeah, we just
if you
can't
didn't
track.
hear it, then you can't contend it to the best of your ability. Then
All right,
that wouldn't
do
even
you wanna
necessarily be me winning the debate. Just be me
you
not
want
communicating properly. Yeah,
you
you
want
can
to
continue, man.
you want to end the recording? I think it's on my camera.
That's it.
Yeah, or if you want to go,
I'd
whatever.
be like, there's like no other interpretation. Like, there's nothing else. Like, what if you think this statement is just saying Wiper has the highest AP in the verse?
Uh, I don't. I mean, if you want to argue that, then sure, but I don't want to argue that personally.
Let's say that this statement is to say Wiper is the most combative and capable. He's literally just calling the strongest and like literally just going, you can produce the highest force in the verse.
Why do you believe that for? Like, what basis?
I mean, it talks about things that apply to his combative ability, and I think that within his combative ability encompasses the aspect of strength, and obviously that would correlate to the statement more, since quite literally just says strongest, and the definition of strongest is correlates to what I just said.
So you think it could be because of his attack potency, basically?
Yeah, basically.
Um, for his quake, right? Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, I maybe his darkness fruit too, because it also has some sort of like suction ability that produces force.
I think that's just destruction. But I think for the quake thing, that's okay. Bound to type potency. Interesting. Okay, so I could agree that this thing might be able to cause like good force upon opponent if conflicted, but I don't think that has to be the sole reason within the context of the statement that's trying to convey. So I'm gonna ask you, how do we
Does it
know
have
that?
to be?
What?
I don't know if I said it has to be, but continue.
Yeah. So how do we know that's more likely, or just blame the case that it's gonna be versus attack potency?
That'd be likely. If you can't give a reason for why your interpretation is superior, then it's fine.
Yeah, I think it could just be the way he kind of utilizes his fruit. That's it because of his attack potency. So
I mean,
if
it
he
can be. I agree. It can be the way he utilizes fruit, but then,
kind of, I want to
like,
like
do you think this utilization is going to apply to everybody in the verse?
Yeah, I'm gonna apply to that. But firstly, I'm gonna say something. So, just to add more to that, because I can't come you off, right? I'm gonna say because we know that Viber is obviously like he's experienced with this fruit, right? He has his fruit since like he was in his prime so age, obviously. I think that can be some sort of rationale as to why it could just be in reference to how the way he utilizes it. And
Wait,
for the
what? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I'm saying that Vibe himself, he has his fruit for a long time. So I think that adds more for the rationale as to why it could be the way he uses in combat. And I think for your question,
Hmm?
I don't
Can you
know.
elaborate? I just don't
Yeah,
know what you mean by that.
yeah.
How
So
does old Whitebeard having this fruit for a long time mean that it's going to talk about white Blackbeard within a combative setting? That makes no
Blackbeard,
sense.
I thought you were talking about Whitebeard.
No, I'm talking about because Blackbeard is called the strongest. Like that's is that not what we were talking about?
Wait, I thought you was talking about like the
No, I was giving an
White.
interpretation on this, like, what Blackbeard meant by the strongest. That's why I even brought up the darkness.
Oh, my fault. There's a misunderstanding. My fault. Oh shit.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about him specifically, I don't think we have like any type of rationale as to why that would be the case for Blackbeard specifically.
Do you like not think the rationale I gave was good, or like what do you mean we
Um,
don't have rationale? I gave rationale.
okay. Oh, for Blackbeard. Okay, I think for
Yeah.
Blackbeard, since Blackbeard's a very like technical fighter and very smart character, I just think it's gonna be the same reason I provided before. It could be just because of the way he likes his fruit. Because we do know, given the time skip, right, that this dude has invented like new types of ways of implement his like quake punches. So I think that can be the reasoning, not
I
because of his
mean,
tech.
I don't know
So
if this statement even encompasses like a Blackbeard that has experience with his Delphin. I'm pretty sure it's just like talking about Marineford. All the pictures are just Marineford. I don't know why it would be talking about any other original Blackbeard.
oh, okay.
But yeah, I agree. Like it can be because how smartly he uses Delphi. That's why he's the strongest. It also can be just because he can just smack a nigga's face and rip all his teeth out. It's also another interpretation. But yeah, do you have any actual scaling outside of like these vague statements for why you think Blackbeard can beat Kaido in the fight?
No, bro, that's the only skin I'm gonna use, bro.
That's
Yo, you're a goat. You're
okay.
a goat
So
for saying Blackbeard beat Kaido in the fight, bro. You're a goat.
Fuck. Damn.
like
I might.
like if I were you, I would probably argue some sort of like fucking Sengoku scale and try to say Sengoku is above the pre-time skip admirals. I wouldn't
Yeah.
disagree with that.
I.
I
I.
would
I
say,
just.
yeah, I agree. Sengoku's above pre-time skip admirals. If you want to say like he's always like above Luffy or some or like relative to Luffy to some degree,
You want to.
then Blackbeard beating the fuck out of Sengoku would probably mean that he can beat the fuck out of Luffy and Kaido.
You want. You want to end the recording, Zkiller?
Sure.
All right. I just want